Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Definitely a lot to talk about tonight. Thanks for sticking around for the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. I'll be joined by Will Graves in a matter of moments. And we're taking your phone calls tonight. 412-575-2600 is the number. Will, we have big news here in the last hour. Keanu Benton signs a 4-year extension for $72 million. He's the guy that I didn't think was going to get the extension. I thought it would have been Joey Porter Jr. This kind of took me by surprise. I don't know about you. I mean, he had a great year last year, but he was moved behind Y.A. Black and Derek Harmon and Cam Hayward on the depth chart. I guess the depth chart really doesn't mean anything. But now he's getting, what, $17, $18 million a year?
I tell you what, I mean, the cost of doing business for Joey Porter Jr. just went up. I mean, look, Keanu was really good last year, to be very clear. They're looking for kind of the guy to be sort of the bridge guy between Cam and Derek Harmon, even though, let's be honest, Keanu's not that much older than Derek at this point. But look, it's the money that's sort of surprising, right? And I think everybody that's like, well, Joey Porter Jr. isn't worth X is going to have to recalculate. I mean, I just think that the size of this deal is eye-catching for a guy who, you're sort of betting on him, right? You're sort of betting on him long term. Woo, that's a lot of change for that position. I mean, how long did it take for Cam to make that kind of money in his career? Trust me, it was not on his second contract. I understand the economics were a little different a decade ago, but I mean, that is certainly not surprising that they got to him, but surprising that they got to him before Joey, and even more surprising, candidly, that they paid him that money. But get the bag, Keanu, good for you.
Yeah, is that concerning to you? They're betting on guys. It's just two guys now that they're paying for future. What they might do in the future. Two rotational guys in Herbig and Keanu Benton.
Well, I mean, part of it's situational too, right? I mean, the reason that Herbig is a rotational guy is because the two guys in front of him, one's going to the Hall of Fame probably, the other one's a really, really solid pro. And most other teams, I would think, where Herbig is at in his sort of development, he would be the starter. He would be a 80% snap guy, right? Instead of this sort of rotational piece. Keanu, look, I mean, coming up and learning from Cam. Again, he has been really good, and getting guys at that position that are excellent players it's hard to come by, right? I mean, there's one of the reasons that Cam is sort of still playing is because he's still really, really good at it, and it's rare, right? So I think that they are. I mean, look, the cap. Here we are going, oh my God, it's a lot of money, and in 2026 it is a lot of money, but in 2029 is it a lot of money? Probably not, right? I mean, so the economics of the NFL are such that the cap goes up just about every single year by a substantial margin. And while it looks like big money this year to a guy, even if he has sort of like the year he had last year, if he can repeat that a couple of times, it's probably going to look like a bargain in the long run.
And this might be Hayward's last year, but it got to irk him a little bit that Keanu Benton now becomes the highest paid defensive lineman in Steelers history.
I would imagine the next D-line meeting tomorrow is going to be there's going to be some chatter in that room for sure. But look, Cam. Cam doesn't. I don't know if Cam plays for money anymore. I think Cam's playing to try to get that gold jacket and to win. I mean, I think those are Cam's two priorities at this point. But that's also the economics. I mean, I think, how long did it take for Cam to make more money than Kiesel or, Casey Hampton? I mean, he did, right? I mean, that's just sort of the way that it goes. But it is sort of, I mean, we sort of sometimes lose track. We get so caught up when the salaries of the quarterbacks and the receivers, the outside linebackers, and then we see an interior lineman making $18 million a year, and you're like, what? But again, good for Keanu. And look, the Steelers, we could. A lot of, obviously a lot of talk about Omar Khan's first draft. I mean, look, they looks pretty good in the rearview mirror, doesn't it? I mean, and I think that is, again, Omar is really just doing what, Kevin Colbert did before him, and they find their guys, they like them, they keep them. And if they don't, they get rid of them like George Pickens. That's how it works.
Yeah, and it leads me to our Penn West University question tonight. Just scan that QR code in the right-hand corner of your screen. Which player would you rather have seen get an extension, Keanu Benton or Joey Porter Jr.? Right now, the audience is basically siding with Joey Porter Jr., 73%. And I know we touched on it at the beginning. What do you think Joey Porter Jr. wants? I'm hearing the Steelers are around the 23, 25 million, and he's looking for more than 30 million, 30, high 20s, 30 million. Do you think that they will bridge this? They'll find a happy medium?
I mean, look, let's remember, and I think I brought this up on the showdown a couple of times. Joey was technically the first pick of the second round, but he wanted first round money, right? And he didn't sign until even though these contracts now when they're rookies are basically formalities because everything's slotted, and he didn't sign until right before the start of OTAs that year, right? So I don't know if he's going to go quietly. I'm sure his dad, a proud part of this organization, for most of his career, but also a guy that understands the business side of things too. I don't think Joey's going to go quietly. And I mean, I think if you look at Keanu, and who had a better year last year, Keanu or Joey Porter Jr. at a position that's more noticeable? I'm not going to say it's more valuable, but it's more noticeable, right? I think that Joey's going to want the money, and again, it's one of those things like I just mentioned. If he gets 28, 29, 30 million, not out of the question. It looks like a lot of money now. If he plays the way he played last year, and he does that for the majority of that next contract, it's going to look like money well spent.
And he probably knows. I mean, he's smart. Their whole side is smart. If he doesn't get it this year, you wait one more year, you're either going to be tagged,
right,
or you're going to go out and get that 4-year, $120 million deal or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, the Steelers do have options, but I wouldn't want to, I'm inclined to believe that Joey, what last year was not an aberration. I mean, believe he is going to be. I mean, I asked them this during camp. Do you believe you're one of the during mini camp? Do you believe you're one of the top cornerbacks in the league? And he said, I felt that way since I entered the league. And I said, how important is it to you to be paid like that? And he goes, I'm going to get the respect I deserve. So I mean, to me, that was him saying, look, we are going to get this done eventually. But I mean, he's in no hurry, and it certainly looks like at least at this point, Omar is not yet in a hurry to get it done.
I know I'm going to get this wrong, but the famous line in Moneyball, it's not about how much money you make, it's about what the money says you are, or something like that. I know I screwed it up, but it's something like that. So, all right, 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes with your phone calls. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Coverage. Walsh along with Will Graves for tonight's show, and this is our Xfinity Tweet of the Night. And you can look from up to stats, views, pitches thrown, an MLB complete game with 10-plus strikeouts since it was first tracked in '88. You can see Braxton Ashcraft right there. That was last night, 85 pitches, 10 Ks, and Randy Johnson is the other guy. You have to go back to 2004. He had 82 pitches, and actually that was in 8 innings. And ironically, the Pirates won that game, beating Randy Johnson in that game with 11 Ks. All right, back to conversation we were having with Will Graves and talking about the Steelers. Pretty good performance by the team yesterday in their preseason opener. I know everyone's eyes were on the quarterback, and they really put on a show. All three of them, I think, did well. This is going to be a tough decision for Mike McCarthy, I would think, if you're not keeping 4 quarterbacks. And I would venture to guess, and I think this is a pretty solid bet, Aaron Rodgers and Drew Aller aren't going anywhere.
Right.
So if they keep 3 quarterbacks, it's between Mason Rudolph and Will Howard.
But maybe they get to the end of this. If you see 2 more weeks of really solid play by these young guys, maybe they say, look, we can roll the dice with them in a tight spot if we have to this season.
Exactly what you said. You know what you're going to get. And they have a veteran team. And how many times has McCarthy said that the last couple times? I think he said it was the most veteran team he's ever had, right?
Yep.
So you need a veteran backup quarterback if you're going to have to win some games if Rodgers misses. That's why I think they keep Mason Rudolph. I mean, I like Will Howard. Great human, great guy. I wish him the best. But if you're going to go if you're going to keep one of the young guys, you just drafted Drew Aller. If he might be the future of the Steelers, we don't know that yet. But I mean, McCarthy said today that they had a first-round grade on him. I think he said that on the McAfee show. So if he's your guy of the future, then you need a guy to back up Aaron Rodgers this year. And this is why, if they're keeping 3 quarterbacks, I think it's Mason Rudolph.
I mean, I think the common sense thing would tell you that it's Mason, but I also think let's say that Aaron and he's the most sacked quarterback in NFL history. He's also been pretty durable outside of the Achilles thing with the Jets a few years ago, but he's 42 years old. Let's say he gets a long-term injury this year. And I'm not putting that out there. I'm just saying, but look, it happens. It happens every year. Every team sort of has their quarterback go down early and miss an extended time. If you keep Will and Drew, at least maybe by the end of the season, if that happened, let's say Rodgers misses 5, 6, 8 weeks, you would know by the end of the season kind of what you got, what your raw materials you're working with. So you could kind of thread the needle here. Hey, we tried to run it back with Aaron. It didn't work out. He got hurt, but hey, we sort of know what we've got with our 2 young guys, and maybe that will set the agenda going into the 2027 draft and 2027 free agency. That would be if I was going to make a decision to move on from Mason. And look, Mason has been a pro. I mean, that guy has been pushed around by this franchise for the better part of a decade now. Says all the right things. Unfortunately, has not maybe maximized the opportunities that he has had to start. I mean, look, like point to the Chicago game last year, just as another example. But he also had great moments, like leading to the playoffs in 23. That being said, I'm with you. The common sense thing is to keep Mason because you kind of know what you're going to get. He's going to keep the team competitive. But, maybe they get to the end of it and decide, you know what, we're going to roll with Aaron. And as long as he's in there, we are the team for now. And then if something happens, we're going to turn towards the future and we're going to let the 2 guys play.
One more question before we take some callers here. Don't you think you could sneak Will Howard on the practice squad?
For a little while, but I mean, let's be honest, when guys get hurt elsewhere, right? And, if there's a spot as a number 3 spot somewhere opens up somewhere, he could get plucked off the practice squad. I mean, that would be the one. I think in the short term, I think he probably clears waivers and maybe you have him for a couple of months, but I think it's unlikely that he's going to make it the rest of the year. Maybe not so much because of his development, but because, there's quarter teams in the other league go run through 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks and they need bodies.
But at that point, you can move guys up and down now, right? I mean, I think you can move an up and down 3 times, I think. I don't know what the exact number is, but you have the option.
But you can't protect, if somebody comes and offers him a contract, if they offer him a spot on the 50, he's gone.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go out to the phone lines. We're going to go out to Chuck in Uniontown. I think he wants to talk about the Pirates, who were big winners again here today, beating up on Boston for the first of 3 here at PNC Park. Chuck, what's up?
First of all, I like this great quick thing about the Steelers. I still think they need to keep Mason Rudolph. He's a veteran. He's had some not so good games, but he also can win in a clutch moments like he did in 23.
Yeah.
Anyhow, about the Pirates, they're just the odds are against us of making the playoffs. But there's 38 games left. Try to go 1-38 times. Don't worry about the standings or anything. Just play that game. That particular day or night. Win 1 game and
Yeah, Chuck, I totally get what you're saying here. I mean, it's harder said than done, right? I mean, easier said than done. Sorry, but they'd have to rattle off. I think for us to think that they're realistically back in this, they'd have to rattle. They'd have to go something like 8-2 in their next 10.
Well, really, what they would need is what sort of the Red Sox were able to do in June and July and go on an absolute heater over a 6-week stretch and win 85% of your games. I don't think that this club is capable of that. They are toying with folks. I mean, when they look as bad as they've looked in this stretch here, and then they win yesterday easily, then today with a great start from Ashcraft, and then today Bubba comes out and again, has a solid start. It's pretty funny though. If Paul Skeens had that start, people would be like, "What is wrong with Paul Skeens? 5 innings, 2 runs."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hey, look at Bubba. I mean, Bubba also a pretty high-profile guy, and at the point in his development where he needs to start, maybe he is definitely improving. You can see that, and they're trying to protect him a little bit with the workload. You can see that too. But I'm not trying to sound like a big Skeens defender here, but it's telling us sort of how everybody's viewed here a little bit differently. That Paul has that start, and it's like, what's wrong with Paul Skeens? And Bubba has that start. It's like, oh, another step forward. That being said, look, I think they need I think they need more than 8-2. I think they need to go on like a 15-5, a 14-6 stretch to get comfortably above 500 and in the mix. But look, they've got that super challenging road trip, the West Coast swing that starts next week. That's probably going to define whether September matters or not.
All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes. Welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Coverage. Walsh along with Will Graves. And Will, I wanted to ask you before we go here, who made up the biggest ground, I think, in that first preseason game? For me, it was Jeremy Bernard. Who did you like?
Look, Tanyan, this is a guy who was fantastic early in his career with the Packers. He caught 1 pass with Kansas City last year. This is a guy who caught 11 touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay in 2020. The guy can still make plays. The other thing I would shout out was just the play calling. I mean, look, I understand that the defenses are vanilla, but dudes were open. Like, not kind of open, they were wide open. And if that is just sort of a sprinkling of, and look, this is certainly the foundation here, a solid start for sure.
Caleb Johnson not getting in until the end of the third quarter. What does that say?
You know, different coaching staff. You know, obviously he lost the trust of Mike Tomlin last year. Mike McCarthy has no ties to him. Look, it would be unusual for them to punt on a third-round guy, but look, he certainly has not had a great camp. He kind of needed to have a great camp. And we see Sweet Lou in there, you know, running hard and scoring touchdowns. He certainly looks like a viable option if you're not going to keep Caleb.
We have about 10 seconds left. Is Aaron Rodgers playing game 2?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I would play Drew Aller before Will Howard this time around.
Yep.
All right. Thanks a lot, Will. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you make the switch over to KDK News right now.